How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. That musical made its debut on Broadway more than 50 years ago, and there have been a couple of successful revivals in the years since, but its latest reincarnation comes with a major variation, and it emanates not from the Great White Way, but instead from Washington, D.C. This morning, Speaker Paul Ryan stood center stage in his very own production, How to Run for President Without Really Announcing.
It can be a confident America where we have a basic faith in politics in our leaders. That sounds like a long distance from where we are right now, doesn't it? It can be a place where we have earned that faith. All of us as leaders can hold ourselves to the highest standards of integrity and decency. Instead of playing to your anxiety, we can appeal to your aspirations. Instead of playing the identity politics of our base versus their base, we unite people around ideas and principles. And instead of being timid, we go bold.
One thing about Paul Ryan, he certainly isn't being subtle. Actually, the speaker is boldly appealing to K Street and the rest of the Washington establishment. Under the guise of offering an inspirational speech to young House staffers and interns, he's up to the same old tricks that many of the politically ambitious have used before him. Ryan's message within the message is this: politics can be ugly, but he will make it beautiful. Since he's still relatively young, he can appeal to young voters while representing the same old special interests. Remember how Paul claimed he really didn't want to be Speaker, but ended up taking that job anyway? Well, he's hoping to use that same approach in moving from the House to the White House. And what's more, his current job as Speaker will put the gavel in his hands at the GOP convention in Cleveland, so he will have the power to preside over that gathering and in so doing help to dump Trump for a replacement named Ryan. I don't think it's right. I don't want it to happen, but that's the way I see it. Now, it's time for the way you see it, your comments via social media. We hear first tonight from Daryl, who writes in about the conversation on our primary special last night and specifically reacts to Donald Trump's comments about funding NATO. Daryl writes, JD, you, Steve, and Betsy are right when it comes to the NATO issue, but Dick Morris is wrong. Trump is right on saying that we are funding NATO and receiving very little in return. NATO has to do their part in return. Voters want solutions and not more empty BS and bias from the establishment elites. Next, we hear from Chris, who writes in about the political composition and prowess of voters in the state of Utah. He writes, my state of Utah is loaded with political dunces. Good place to live, but politically inept. And just for the record, Romney really didn't affect the anti-Trump vote. The whole state is controlled by liberals, immigrants, and college communities. Okay. Linda writes in about Senator Ted Cruz and his presidential ambitions. According to Linda, she says, I've lost respect for Senator Cruz. He should be a man and step aside so the vote of we the people will be counted. He's just standing in the way and knows he can't win. Donald Trump will stop Hillary. Next, it's Mike, who writes in about Trump's stance on illegal immigration and securing our southern border. Here's what Mike has to say. Why do you think so many people are coming out of the woodwork to vote? They've been wanting this for a long time. We need radical change, and I believe Donald Trump will bring that change. And finally, we hear from Dana, who writes, back when I was in public school, children were taught how to think, not what to think. I won't be told who to vote for by establishment Republicans. If voters are turning out in record numbers to vote for Trump, then Trump is obviously the nominee people want. Interesting thoughts from Dana. Also included a couple of nice notes about this particular program and a certain host. We thank everyone for writing in, and we invite you to shower us with your comments, both laudatory and critical. To do so, what you need to do is sit in front of your keyboard and address it to me at newsmaxtv.com/comments. That will do it for tonight. For those you see and those you don't, JD Hayworth saying, stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.